Most people believe staying alone is a sign of weakness, a quiet admission that something is missing or broken. The truth is simpler and far more uncomfortable. Being alone removes the noise that tells you who to be, how to feel, and what to want. When no one is watching, no one approving, and no one distracting you, you finally meet the part of yourself that has been avoided for years. That moment is not loneliness, it is leverage. Remember the last time you followed someone else's advice, trusted their certainty over your own judgment, and everything clearly moved in the wrong direction for you. Stoic thinkers saw chosen solitude as training, not escape. They understood that self-control, clarity, and an inner strength are built away from crowds, opinions, and emotional chaos. Staying alone becomes the space where discipline replaces impulse and calm replaces reaction. If you feel overwhelmed by people, drained by expectations, or unsure of your own decisions, you are not failing. You are being invited to master yourself. Stay with this message, apply it step by step, and reclaim your inner authority. If this resonates, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment one affirmation below. I choose strength. 1. Get comfortable being alone with your thoughts. Being alone is the first condition of self-mastery. If you cannot endure your own thoughts, you will always look for someone else to escape your inner truth. Silence strips away performance. It removes the audience. What remains is the voice that has been ignored beneath noise, schedules, and constant connection. This is where staying alone begins to matter, not as withdrawal from life, but as the starting point of inner strength. Mastering yourself does not happen in conversation. It happens when no one is speaking and nothing is demanding your attention. Staying alone is often misunderstood as isolation, but the difference is intention. Solitude is chosen. Isolation is feared. When you choose to be alone, you stop borrowing clarity from others and begin developing your own. The title Stay Alone and Master Yourself is not about rejecting people. It is about reclaiming authorship over your mind. Without that authorship, opinions replace judgment and noise replaces discipline. Self-mastery requires space, and space only appears when you are willing to sit with yourself without distraction. A common mistake is believing that constant activity equals strength. Busy schedules, full calendars, endless scrolling, and background noise create the illusion of control. Many people fear silence because silence asks questions. It asks whether the life you are living is aligned with your values. It asks whether your decisions are truly yours. Filling time with people and platforms becomes a defense against those questions. The fear is not loneliness. The fear is clarity. Most people run from being alone because they associate it with emptiness. Stoic thought sees it differently. Silence is where truth surfaces. When you avoid silence, you allow external forces to shape your emotions and decisions. When you accept silence, you regain command. Stoics did not seek solitude to escape responsibility. They sought it to sharpen responsibility. Solitude was training, not comfort. It was a discipline that strengthened inner discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote that nowhere is a person more peaceful than within a well-ordered mind. He governed an empire surrounded by power, conflict, and demand. Yet his strength came from private moments of reflection. He did not find clarity in the court. He found it alone, confronting his thoughts without decoration or distraction. That practice allowed him to act with calm when others reacted with fear. Imagine an evening with no phone, no music, no television, just a chair, a quiet room, and your thoughts. Many people cannot endure that for 10 minutes. The discomfort arrives quickly, restlessness follows. The urge to check, to scroll, to reach out becomes urgent. That urgency reveals dependency. If you cannot sit with yourself for 10 minutes, something else is steering your mind. Control is already outsourced. This explains why empty weekends unsettle people more than failure. Failure has structure. Silence does not. An empty schedule exposes habits of avoidance. It reveals how often validation replaces self-trust. Staying alone removes that replacement. It forces you to hear what has been postponed. The goal is not to judge those thoughts, but to observe them. Observation builds distance. Distance builds control. Stoic philosophy treats solitude as a workshop. In that workshop, Emotions are examined, not obeyed. Thoughts are acknowledged, not dramatized. Over time, this practice creates emotional self-control and inner discipline. The mind becomes quieter, not because problems disappear, but because reactions slow down. This is where self-mastery begins to take shape. Strength is not the absence of fear. Strength is the ability to sit with fear without escaping it. When you stop running from your thoughts, they lose their power. Staying alone becomes less threatening and more stabilizing. Inner strength grows from familiarity with your own mind. Begin simply. Each day, take 10 minutes without devices, without conversation, without stimulation. Sit and observe your thoughts as they arise and pass. Do not correct them. Do not argue with them. Just notice. This small practice builds solitude tolerance, and solitude tolerance builds discipline. Over time, staying alone stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like command. 2. Keep fewer people around so you can think clearly. To master yourself, you must reduce the influence of others. Too many voices drown out your own. Thought becomes fragmented when it is constantly interrupted by advice, opinions, expectations, and emotional demands. Staying alone in this sense does not mean physical isolation. It means protecting the space where your judgment forms. Without that space, self-mastery remains an idea rather than a lived reality. The idea behind stay alone and master yourself points to a difficult truth. Clarity rarely survives crowds. The more people you consult, the harder it becomes to hear what you already know. Many confuse connection with safety. They believe that surrounding themselves with many voices will prevent mistakes. In practice, it often does the opposite. Decisions become diluted. Responsibility becomes shared. When outcomes fail, blame scatters and growth stalls. A common mistake is assuming that more relationships create stability. Social pressure reinforces this belief. Advice is framed as care. Opinions are framed as support. Yet most advice carries the fears, limitations, and projections of the person offering it. When you rely too heavily on external input, your thinking bends toward approval rather than truth. The result is hesitation, overthinking, and dependence on reassurance. Mental noise replaces inner discipline. Stoic philosophy approached this problem with precision. It did not reject relationships, but it demanded selectivity. Fewer influences meant clearer judgment. Stoics understood that the mind cannot serve many masters. Each added voice competes for authority. When too many compete, none lead effectively. Solitude and limited company were tools to sharpen reason, not signs of withdrawal. Seneca warned that living among crowds makes it easier to lose oneself than to find oneself. His concern was not people, but distraction. He saw how quickly values dissolve when constantly exposed to comparison and commentary. For him, a smaller circle was not about elitism. It was about the preservation of character. Clear thinking required fewer interruptions and fewer borrowed fears. Consider how many decisions in your life are truly yours. Not approved, not adjusted, not softened by others, but chosen with full responsibility. Each time advice is asked for too quickly, trust in personal judgment weakens. Each time a plan is shared widely, it becomes vulnerable to doubt before action begins. When everyone has input, no one owns the outcome. Accountability fades. The pressure to include others in every decision comes from discomfort with standing alone. Approval feels safer than responsibility. Stoic thinking reverses this instinct. Responsibility is freedom. Fewer voices mean fewer excuses. The mind becomes quieter, and with that quiet comes emotional self-control. Inner strength grows when decisions are made deliberately and carried through without constant validation. Reducing your circle is an active choice, not a loss. It creates mental space. That space allows you to observe thoughts without interference. It allows discipline to form without comparison. Over time, this clarity builds trust in your own reasoning. That trust is central to self-mastery. Without it, every challenge invites consultation, and every obstacle becomes a vote. Staying alone in this context means guarding your inner authority. It means knowing when input adds value and when it only adds noise. This boundary strengthens inner discipline and restores control over direction. Freedom of thought does not come from isolation, but from selectivity. Begin with a simple practice. Pause before sharing plans, doubts, or decisions with people who are not directly involved. Let ideas mature in silence. Notice how clarity improves when opinions are limited. This restraint builds confidence and strengthens judgment. Over time, staying alone with fewer influences stops feeling risky and starts feeling grounded. That grounding is where self-mastery takes root. 3. Step away from emotional drama. An anonymous manager once chose not to react to internal rumors. He did not deny them. He did not confront them. He did not explain himself. His silence allowed the chaos to collapse under its own weight, and his credibility grew without effort. This moment captures the core of staying alone in a crowded world. To master yourself, you must step away from the emotions of others. Emotional drama survives on reaction, and reaction pulls you out of your own center. Stay alone. And master yourself does not ask you to disengage from life. It asks you to disengage from unnecessary emotional noise. Drama is rarely about truth. It is about stimulation. It feeds on outrage, fear, and urgency. When you respond immediately, you lend your energy to something that was never meant to be resolved. Staying alone in this sense means refusing to let external emotions dictate your internal state. Most people believe involvement is loyalty. They react because they fear exclusion. Silence feels risky in a culture that rewards visibility and speed. Emotional chains form quickly. One reaction invites another. One opinion demands a defense. Soon, clarity disappears. The mind becomes reactive rather than deliberate. Emotional self-control erodes, replaced by the need to be seen and heard. Stoic thinking approached this pattern with restraint. Not every emotion deserves a response. Not every event requires participation. Stoics separated the event from the interpretation. What happens exists on its own. Emotional drama begins when interpretation overwhelms judgment. Silence, then, is not weakness. It is a selection. It is choosing where energy belongs. Drama thrives on attention. Without it, it dissolves. This is why non-reaction often feels unsettling to others. They expect engagement. They depend on it. When you do not react, you remove the fuel. The question becomes simple. Who benefits when you lose your calm? Rarely is the answer you. Many confuse emotional intensity with importance. Loud emotions feel urgent, but urgency does not equal significance. Stoic discipline trains the mind to pause. In that pause, distance forms. With distance comes clarity. Staying alone emotionally allows you to observe without absorbing. It allows inner strength to replace impulse. The fear beneath drama is often abandonment. People react to stay included. Stoic philosophy reframes inclusion. True belonging does not require constant reaction. Self-mastery grows when you can stand apart without anxiety. Calm presence becomes authority. Emotional independence becomes stability. The unnamed manager understood this instinctively. By not reacting, he demonstrated control. His silence was not empty, it was deliberate. Others filled the space with assumptions, then exhausted themselves. When clarity returned, his position was stronger. This pattern repeats in daily life. Those who remain calm when others escalate often emerge with trust intact. Stepping away from drama requires discipline. The first impulse is to respond. That impulse feels justified. It feels moral. It feels necessary. Stoic practice teaches restraint. The mind learns that feelings pass whether acted upon or not. Reaction is optional. Control is learned. Staying alone emotionally creates space for thought. In that space, decisions become measured. Emotional self-control strengthens. Inner discipline replaces reactivity. Over time, calm becomes habitual. This calm is not indifference, it is precision. Begin with a simple rule. Delay response. When conflict arises, wait 24 hours before engaging. This pause disrupts emotional chains. It allows reason to return. Often, the urge to respond fades. When it does not, clarity improves. This practice builds distance from drama and closeness to self-command. Mastering yourself does not require winning arguments. It requires conserving energy. Stepping away from emotional drama protects that energy. Staying alone in this way restores authority over your inner state. Calm becomes strength, and strength becomes visible without effort. 4. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. Epictetus emphasized that no one has the authority to judge your inner life except you. That idea cuts against a habit many people carry without noticing. When decisions feel uncertain, explanations multiply. Words are offered to soften doubt, to gain approval, to avoid friction. Over time, explaining becomes a reflex. The reflex drains energy and weakens resolve. Quiet confidence fades, replaced by the need to be understood. Stopping explanations is not arrogance, it is alignment. When your direction is clear, language becomes economical. When it is not, language expands to compensate. Many confuse clarity with consensus. They speak until others nod. Yet agreement does not strengthen judgment, it only postpones responsibility. The more you explain, the more you invite permission into a place that requires command. The need to be understood is human. It feels safe. Being accepted promises relief, but acceptance purchased through explanation is fragile. It depends on mood, context, and the listener's fears. Each new explanation adds another thread tying your emotional state to someone else's reaction. Over time, emotional self-control gives way to emotional dependence. Inner discipline thins. Stoic thought approached this tension with restraint. Understanding from others was optional. Understanding of oneself was essential. Those who act from reason do not need to narrate their motives. Action carries weight on its own. When explanation becomes constant, it signals uncertainty. When it becomes selective, it signals strength. Many people explain to avoid being misunderstood. The fear is not misinterpretation. The fear is rejection. Stoic practice reframes the risk. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Some pass on their own. Others reveal more about the listener than the decision. Silence filters attention. Those who need noise fall away. Those who value substance remain. Ask why agreement feels necessary. Does explanation make you stronger or simply quieter inside for a moment? Each justification hands over a piece of authority. You begin negotiating with opinions rather than acting from judgment. Control shifts outward. The inner voice softens. Clarity dims. The Stoics favored action because action anchors reality. Words drift, action remains. When reasons are sound, outcomes speak. When reasons are weak, explanations multiply. This pattern repeats across work, relationships, and personal goals. The strongest figures often speak the least. They do not defend every choice. They let consistency accumulate. Consider a person who decides to change direction quietly. They stop announcing plans. They stop persuading others. They act. Over time, the results become visible. Questions lose urgency. Doubt fades. This is not secrecy. It is a focus. The mind steadies when it no longer performs for approval. Staying alone in this sense is internal. It is the decision to keep judgment private until action requires disclosure. This protects mental space. Fewer explanations mean fewer emotional hooks. Inner strength grows when choices are made without commentary. Stoic philosophy taught that your worth does not rise with applause. It rises with coherence between thought and action. When explanations are brief, thought is settled. When explanations are defensive, thought is unsettled. Discipline shows in brevity. Confidence shows in restraint. Practice begins with awareness. Notice when the urge to explain appears. Notice the tension behind it. Is it fear of conflict, fear of rejection, or fear of standing alone? Let the urge pass. Respond with fewer words. State decisions without defense. Allow silence to do its work. Use short answers. Keep tone neutral. Do not preempt objections. Let action follow. This conserves energy and strengthens self-mastery. Over time, the habit shifts. The need to explain weakens. Trust in your judgment strengthens. Quiet replaces noise. Mastery does not announce itself. It settles. When explanations fall away, clarity remains. Inner authority returns to its place. Silence becomes a boundary, not a void. And within that boundary, the mind stands steady without needing permission. 5. Choose silence instead of seeking approval. If you defend yourself too well, trust me, people will feel their power threatened. Silence unsettles because it removes the leverage others expect to have over you. When you stop explaining, justifying, or proving your worth, attention shifts. Approval loses its grip. What remains is presence. This is where inner strength quietly forms, not through confrontation, but through restraint that cannot be provoked. Choosing silence is often misunderstood as retreat. In truth, it is containment. Silence with intention draws a boundary around your emotional energy. Seeking approval invites negotiation. Silence ends it. Many speak not because they have something essential to say, but because they want to be seen as reasonable, valuable, or agreeable. That need creates dependency. The more approval you seek, the more your stability relies on others. Silence restores balance by placing authority back inside. The common belief is that silence means losing. In debates, meetings, and relationships, speaking is equated with control. Yet excessive speaking often signals insecurity. When words multiply, confidence thins. Silence feels dangerous because it offers no reassurance. It leaves space where judgment might land. This fear fuels the habit of over-explaining, oversharing, and over-defending. The habit drains emotional self-control and weakens discipline. Stoic philosophy saw silence differently. It was not avoidance, it was mastery. Silence allowed reason to stay intact when emotions flared around it. Not every remark deserved acknowledgement. Not every challenge required response. By choosing when not to speak, Stoics preserved clarity. Silence became a strategic pause, not a surrender. Approval is tempting because it promises relief. A nod, a compliment, or an agreement offers momentary calm. But calm purchased externally fades quickly. It must be renewed again and again. This cycle trains the mind to look outward for stability. Over time, inner discipline erodes. The mind reacts rather than leads. Silence interrupts that cycle. It removes the transaction entirely. A well-known artist once reduced public commentary to almost nothing. Interviews declined. Explanations disappeared. The work remained. Without constant commentary, attention shifted from personality to substance. Influence grew. Respect followed. Silence did not erase presence. It refined it. The absence of noise sharpened perception. Notice when you speak to be acknowledged rather than to add value. Notice how often words are used to secure a position rather than express truth. Silence in those moments feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is instructive. It reveals attachment to validation. Stoic restraint teaches that discomfort is not a signal to act. It is a signal to observe. Silence can make others uneasy. It removes cues. It prevents emotional leverage. When you do not respond, others project. They fill the gap with assumptions. Some feel ignored, some feel challenged. None of that requires correction. Power does not need an announcement. It settles quietly when it is no longer negotiated. The fear beneath approval seeking is invisibility. Being forgotten feels worse than being misunderstood. Stoic thinking reframes this fear. Value is not measured by noise. It is measured by consistency. What endures does not shout. It remains. Silence is not passive. It is selective. It chooses relevance over reaction. This selectivity protects inner strength. When responses are reserved, emotions stabilize. When emotions stabilize, judgment improves. Self-mastery deepens through this restraint. Practice begins with choosing non-response when the response adds nothing. Not every message requires a reply. Not every provocation deserves acknowledgement. Let silence stand. Notice how often situations resolve without your involvement. This builds trust and restraint. Over time, the urge to seek approval weakens. Silence becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds calm. Calm breeds authority. Without striving, influence grows. Without noise, clarity sharpens. Choosing silence does not isolate you. It anchors you. It allows you to stand alone without loneliness, grounded in self-trust rather than reaction. In that quiet, mastery takes shape, steady and unforced. 6. Spend time alone until you trust yourself. This is the destination of self-mastery. Being alone becomes a skill rather than a trial. What once felt heavy turns steady. What once demanded effort becomes natural. Time spent alone no longer exposes weakness. It confirms the strength that has been earned quietly, without witnesses. This stage arrives only after solitude has been practiced long enough to replace doubt with familiarity. Trust in yourself does not appear suddenly. It is built through repetition. Each moment alone tests judgment without support. Each choice made without reassurance sharpens inner discipline. Many believe confidence comes from being affirmed. In reality, confidence grows when affirmation is absent and decisions still hold. The title of this final step points toward that independence. Solitude becomes capacity, not punishment. A common mistake is believing that certainty must precede action. People wait for signs, advice, or approval before moving. The delay feels responsible. It feels safe. Yet safety purchased through confirmation weakens judgment. When every decision requires validation, trust never forms. Fear of being wrong replaces the willingness to decide. Emotional self-control gives way to hesitation. Stoic philosophy treated judgment as a muscle. Muscles grow under resistance, not protection. Trust develops through use, not avoidance. Mistakes are not proof of failure. They are proof of engagement. Reason becomes reliable only after it has been exercised alone. This view reframes error. Error is not the enemy. Dependence is. Many seek confirmation because being wrong feels costly. The fear is not error itself, but exposure. Standing alone means owning outcomes without insulation. Stoic restraint accepts that ownership. Responsibility clarifies thought. It sharpens attention. When consequences are faced without shared blame, learning accelerates. An anonymous entrepreneur once withdrew from constant consultation. After years of group decisions, progress slowed. Opinions multiplied. Direction blurred. He stepped away alone for several weeks. No advisors, no consensus. Decisions formed slowly, then firmly. One major choice followed. It appeared risky from the outside. The result proved accurate. The process mattered more than the outcome. Solitude restored trust in his own reasoning. Ask yourself whether you trust your judgment. When no one supports your decision, do you hesitate or proceed? The answer reveals dependence. Trust is not belief without doubt. It is action despite doubt. Stoic thinking did not remove uncertainty. It reduced the fear of it. Self-trust is the foundation of freedom. Without it, choice remains theoretical. You may have options, but you cannot use them confidently. With it, direction stabilizes. External voices lose urgency. Inner strength grows because decisions align with values rather than reaction. Mistakes are part of the training. Each error teaches precision. Each misstep refines judgment. Avoiding error avoids growth. Stoic discipline accepts the cost of learning. Reason improves through friction. Solitude provides that friction in a controlled space. Spending time alone builds this trust gradually. The mind adjusts. Anxiety softens. Decision-making becomes less dramatic. Emotional self-control improves because reactions slow. Inner discipline deepens as habits form without observation. The need to explain or justify fades. Authority returns inward. Those who trust themselves do not require crowds. They act with calm. They consult when necessary, not compulsively. Their presence feels grounded because it is not borrowed. This grounding is not isolation, it is stability. Practice begins small. Make one minor decision each day without seeking advice. Accept the outcome fully. Observe the result. Repeat. Over time, decisions feel lighter. Confidence shifts from performance to competence. Solitude becomes familiar terrain rather than empty space. Trust grows where attention rests. When attention is turned inward without fear, clarity follows. This clarity does not announce itself. It settles. When it does, being alone is no longer a challenge. It becomes proof that judgment has matured. The final measure is simple. When silence arrives, you remain steady. When others doubt, you continue. Time alone no longer tests you. It confirms what has already been built. Staying alone is not withdrawal, it is training. When you choose silence over noise, restraint over reaction, and judgment over approval, you begin to build something durable inside yourself. Each quiet moment strengthens inner discipline. Each deliberate pause restores clarity. Over time, solitude stops feeling empty and starts feeling stable, because you are no longer running from your own thoughts. Instead, you are shaping them. Practice this daily, even in small ways, and notice how your confidence becomes calmer and your decisions more grounded. Growth happens quietly, but it lasts. If this lesson resonates, share your experience or reflection in the comments below.